Computer. Okay. Hi there. How are you, Elizabeth?
Hello. I'm good. How are you, Melissa?
Good. Nice to see you. I'll just introduce myself and the podcast really fast, and then most importantly, you, because you're the guest of honor here for sure. I'm Melissa McLeod. I am the owner of the Wool and the Floss in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, and with my partner in crime, Megan Holmes at the Needlepoint Clubhouse, we're the Pointing It Out team, and we love to bring you interesting and fun people every week. And this week, I'm with Elizabeth Bozievich, who is the owner and editor of Needlepoint Now. I think I have all those titles right. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay.
that's accurate.
Well, welcome. I feel like I think I said to you in my email, I was a little intimidated by the fact that me as the person with the business degree is interviewing the person who like normally is the interviewer.
So. Yeah, but I have a graphic design degree. I don't have a journalism degree.
Okay, well, we are going to dive into that for sure. So tell me, you are on the West Coast. I know that from our time frame. So tell me where you are.
We are right outside of Eugene, Oregon, in a small community called Elmira.
Okay. And there's a lot of needlepoint finishers out your way, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, that's really amazing how many we have, which I love it. But
that's great. I wonder how that like evolved. I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but I think that's kind of interesting. Any idea?
Well, there was the Albany finishing, and then I think some of his people branched off. Sue Parsons branched off. Okay. And then we had another finisher, Cindy Hubbard, who owned Needlepoint Plus, and she retired. And the person who restarted her shop, bought it and restarted it, Corey Blackman, is also a finisher.
Wow, that's really great. Yeah, it always surprises me how many things I'm mailing to
Oregon.
Yeah. I think that's really great. So you're in Oregon, and is this your office that you're in that's attached to your house? Is that?
It's we have a separate studio, and that's where I am. The house is in the front of the property, and the studio is in the back of the property. It's a few acres.
So hopefully,
I actually have to go outside to go to work.
But that's good. It gives you the ability to separate work from home, which is sometimes hard when you work out of your house and work for yourself.
Yeah, it was very hard when I didn't have an exterior office. My husband would leave in the morning and I'd be in my pajamas with my toothbrush working on the computer. And then he would show up again and I'd be like, what are you doing here? And he'd say, it's 6 o'clock at night. What are you still doing with your pajamas on?
Like, but my teeth are really clean and I got a lot done.
Yeah, I got my toothbrush.
That's a riot. That's a riot. So back up for us, if you would. Tell us, I think I read that, two things that I was thinking is really interesting. I love to hear about people's backgrounds in general, and then I love to hear about their stitching backgrounds. So I did read recently that your mother was a big stitcher. So I think that their stitching probably started there.
Yeah, my mom got interested in stitching in the late 70s. And I have 2 sisters, so there's 4 girls in our family. She decided she wanted needlepoint seat cushions, and so she took advantage of her cheap child labor and had us all help her.
I love it. And did I read that those seat cushions never actually made it onto the seat?
Nope, we got them all done, and my mother, true to form, said, I don't really like the color.
So I have to ask, where are they now?
I have no clue.
Oh, no!
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, well, I am a sucker for rescuing completed needleworks. Like actually, my daughter knows this about me, and she bought a piece down at a little, like, almost like a boutique / junk shop. I'm not sure which one you'd call it, that was framed. And she's like, I just brought this home. It was $8 and someone had stitched it in 1950. And I just had it made into a crossbody purse. So someday someone's going to find those finished needle points and make them into something really cool.
Yeah. They're probably sitting in a Goodwill somewhere on the East Coast. So,
well, my younger daughter was also doing some volunteer work in high school. And this was kind of at a phase where she was being a little surly, as many 16-year-olds will be. And, but then she came home one day and she said, Mom, I have a gift for you. And I'm like, oh, really? And she pulled out a 95% completed belt canvas when she was volunteering at the it's like a donation place where they resell the clothes, and they were going to throw it out because they didn't know what it was, and she's like, wait, my mom will want that.
And they said that'll be $10.
So they gave it to her, and I have now had it finished and put on a little tote bag, and it's a sample in the shop. So yeah, you never know how these are going to come. So that is awesome. So you learned how to stitch at a young age, it sounds like. And
Yeah, I was about 8 years old.
And have you continued stitching the whole time, or did you have like a hiatus?
No, I stitched the whole time through high school, through college. I always found it very relaxing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it kind of mellowed me out a little bit. I tended to be a very busy child. So my mother and my grandparents were very happy that I had something to keep me going that didn't involve them.
Well, and I think a lot of us find that. I know that when life gets really busy, sometimes I don't stitch as much. And even if I can just sit down for 15 minutes a day, like I'm in a much better place, and that's good for everyone around us.
I usually stitch in the morning before I get any more interruptions. And a lot of times it's stuff for the magazine or for the tour, but I get about 45 minutes to an hour in the morning.
Oh, good for you. That's a really good way to start your day.
Yeah, it is.
Nice. And do you stitch in your house, or do you stitch in your studio, or some of both?
I kind of have to stitch at home. I find it very difficult to stitch in the studio. I'm set up for it,
right?
But I just can't relax enough to
There's
stitch
too many
over
to-dos
here
around you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I try to keep the work things here in the studio, and then when I go home in the evenings or first thing in the morning, I'll stitch. Although occasionally the computer goes home with me and we work late.
Yes, it happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of us. So I would love to hear kind of your background as far as like your education, other jobs you may have had, what led you to this magazine ownership, which is so exciting.
Well, my first degree was in painting and drawing, which, there's not that many jobs out there. So I went back after I got married and got a commercial art and photography degree.
Nice.
And I worked for an advertising agency that handled big clients like Trump Plaza, all of his Atlantic City properties, Days Inn, they're big, they had big clients. And I did that for about a year. And then I was hired by a magazine publisher. And, I always thought magazines are going to be dull. I really belong in the advertising field because it's so exciting. But I love the magazine because I felt like you got a do-over every issue. You can improve on what you'd done the time before. So I loved it. And I eventually went freelance, and the same magazine publisher hired me as a freelancer. And I've worked on about a dozen titles through my career. And I just knew that I wanted to own my own magazine and run it the way that I thought it should be run. And I met Joyce Lakomsky and talked to her about when she was ready to retire, what was she planning to do with Needlepoint Now.
And she was just the former owner, I presume.
She was the former owner. She also did the A&G magazine for a number of years.
Oh, and was she the original founder of Needlepoint Now?
Yes, she was. When she left A&G, she started Needlepoint Now, and she ran it for 10 years. And was my mother's age. She's gone now. Both of them are gone. But I've had it now. I'm going into my 12th year.
Wow. Well, I think that I have been a subscriber for almost that long. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that. Yeah. It's one of the favorite days of the 60 days when the Needlepoint Now arrives. So
I get people saying, "Can you do it monthly?" And it's like, no. The process it's a labor intensive publication.
I'm sure.
To go through all the proofing, and we create all the charts except for Ann Strike Kurtz's charts. Okay. I do all the photography. It is very labor intensive.
Well, your myriad of backgrounds seems like they marry really, really well for what you're doing with the photography and the stitching and the advertising. It all has like led you to this, it seems.
Yeah, it's on. it's been a goal, and so I work towards it, which, you know, I really believe in. If there's something you really want and you focus on it and you work towards it, there's no reason you can't achieve it.
Well, I've got young adult children. One's still in college and the other two are 23. And I always tell them that as soon as they can figure out what they want to do, doing it in some ways really isn't that hard. It's knowing what you want to do, you know.
Exactly.
And it sounds like you figured that out pretty early on. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I got lucky. You know, I was in the right places at the right times, and I always say that I must have a guardian angel or something, because things have worked out really well.
Ah, that's nice. And I know I'm talking about my children, but I know you have a couple four-legged children, correct?
Yeah, I never had human children, but I've always had dogs, and I actually have one cat who's
Oh,
supposed to be my husband's, but she's decided lately that she belongs to me
okay.
because I'm allergic to her, I'm sure.
Oh, shoot.
But yeah. But yeah, we've had standard poodles. I grew up with them, and we have them. Yeah, they're great dogs, and they come to work every day.
And do you have 2 or 3?
I have 3 right now. We had 4, and we lost one a few months ago.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry. It's so hard.
we have 3. He was an old man, you know. He had a really good life.
Oh, well, I'm sure they all have a good life with you. It seems you're very devoted to them, and I hope they appreciate that.
I don't think they know the difference. They're kind of like the spoiled children, that they don't realize they're spoiled because it's all they know.
I think that's pretty great. I was mentioning earlier to you that my dogs are away with my kids at our summer home. And it's really sad to not have them around. So
I know.
It's funny how we get so attached to them. But we digress. So you've been with the magazine, or the magazine's been with you, I should say, for 12 years. So what
just going in to our 12th year.
What kind of changes have you implemented or have happened because of the times they are changing, all those kind of things?
Well, before I took the magazine, Joyce, the previous owner's philosophy was that it only covered counted work. And I believe I saw the numbers slipping of subscribers, and I believe that she was addressing half of the industry at most. Right. So I started covering painted canvases.
Okay.
There was such a boom in new designers. I hit it at the right time. It was like painted canvas just skyrocketed, and all these people came up and were doing designs, and anything you want is available without going custom. So, and then that's when stitch guide writing started getting to be the thing to do. And we have our rock stars out there that we all love. And I've been able to get people to contribute some of their ideas on how to complete a canvas. And that's the biggest change I've made. I've improved the website. And then another area that I saw that we needed some help was there's an awful lot of older people that don't like to travel alone. And it's not just old people, right. It's like beyond teenagers.
Right.
And they don't like to travel alone. And so I've partnered up with Jeremy Hamilton and Laura Taylor, and we've started doing needlepoint tours to try to get these people out on a theme vacation and go see fun things and shop and eat at good places and just, have the best that there is in any area we visit.
Right. And you do some domestic, well, prior to 2020, we're going to ignore 2020 for a moment. We'd love to ignore 2020 forever, but we're going to ignore it for a moment because you do domestic trips as well as overseas trips, correct?
Yeah, Laura Taylor and I do what we call the the rolling bus tour stitching party.
And great.
We pick like a region, like we did the West Coast. We went from Seattle area to San Diego, and it was a hit, and we had so much fun. So then last year we did the Southern bus tour, where we started in Atlanta and we ended up in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
So we want to keep doing it.
How long do they go for, and how many people do usually join you?
We can take up to about 25, and they're usually about 10 days. our problem is that you got to cram a couple shops into each day,
Right.
because we go to the areas where there's a dense population of needlework shops. So Texas might be a really good place to go, or Arizona.
I call Texas the, what do I usually say? Sorry, now I'm blanking out on the phrase, but it's where Needlepoint definitely is. The Needlepoint capital of the world. That's what I was called.
It really is.
Texas.
I know. I mean, they have, well, just in Houston,
5, right?
Yeah, there's like 5, where in Oregon we have like 2 for the whole state.
Well, I have just a little plug for the future. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Metro Detroit area.
Yeah, that's another place we need to concentrate
You may
on.
need to come and visit me, even though it's on my bucket list to go on with you, but that's okay. You can come
Well,
here
we'd
and then
love to have you.
I'll hop on board and join you.
Yeah, there you go. We'll start at your shop. You get on, and we'll just pick up shop owners along the way.
Well, there won't be room for anybody else, so that wouldn't be very fair.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's super fun. So 10 days. And so you must set up hotels along the way for people. And
yeah, we book hotels. We arrange where we're going to have, usually we have breakfast at the hotels. We try to pick hotels that have restaurants. And then we figure out where we're going to have a morning activity, then where we're going to be for lunch, where we're going to have an afternoon activity. Then we go check into our hotel, and then we all go to dinner, and we call the shop owners or the people that we know in the areas, and we ask their opinions of what's the best place to go, and we make the reservations, and everything's covered. It sounds like an expensive trip, but basically the only thing that's not covered is your alcohol and your shopping.
Well, the shopping's the downside, right?
Yeah. But if you want us to help, be your bank, and so you can send us your $5 bills, we'll be happy to do that for you.
So you do a little sightseeing along the way too? Or is it all needlepoint related?
We do sightseeing. We try to have a class, an hour or a 2-hour class on needlepoint every day. But the whole idea of this was to see the sites, what each area is known for.
Well, I'm sold. I'm in.
So tell us, let's go
overseas, because that's probably takes on a little bit different adventure when you do them overseas.
Yeah, my partner Jeremy Hamilton, who used to be Kirk and Hamilton, the canvas designers, and then Kirk and Hamilton split up. Jeremy had a gift shop he lived right outside of London. Right now he lives in Cornwall. He's retired there, but he would do all the reconnaissance and find us the perfect places to go, eat, shop, and then I would get the sign-ups, and I would do a design of a project for the piece and get everybody there, and then I got to relax a little bit, and he had to work hard.
There you go. Well, that's great.
But it's great because I've been enough times now that I know some of the areas as well as Jeremy does, so I feel like I can help him out on the road a little more.
Nice. That's super fun. So when did you start these trips? Is that just in the last 3 or 4 years?
I think Jeremy and I are in our 5th year, and Laura and I have done 2 years.
Okay, nice.
So we have, Laura and I don't have anything planned right now. We'll probably start looking at next year. But Jeremy and I are hoping that our April trip, there's 2 tours that are back to back. One of them is called The Tale of Two Cities, where we do Paris and then we do the UK. And then the second trip, you can overlap. There's a little bit of an overlap. I think it's like 5 days. You can stay and do Scotland with us.
Wow, really fun.
So, yeah, I mean, Scotland is amazing. England is amazing. But we usually go to the Royal Mile in Edinburgh and see Holyrood Castle, and we've gone on the Britannica, the Queen's ship that's been retired now.
Right.
All kinds of fun things that we don't have in the U.S.
Really fabulous, and we're all just itching to travel again. So I'm sure.
I know.
And when the lights come back on, shall we say, you are going to be overwhelmed with people interested, because
I hope so,
yeah.
because it's so much fun. I mean, I wasn't really much of a international traveler. And then when I bought the magazine, I started doing a couple international tours where I would be the client. I would go on other people's tours, and I got the bug, and it was like, gosh, to go and see some of these textiles and see these other countries, some of, China, it was so backwards, and it was like a third world country, some of the places we went, because we didn't just stay in the big cities.
Right.
It was a real eye opener, and I caught the bug, and I just wanted to pass it on to other people. Come with us, come see the things that interest you.
Well, it for sure is on my bucket list. I would like though to also hear a little bit more about the magazine, because I get so excited about the travel. I keep asking those questions, but your magazine is fairly, I should look at how many pages. You can probably tell me how many pages. There's a lot of pages in these. So
yeah, it depends on the advertising. I think that one's 56, or did I do that one 64? I got my copy here.
There's
too.
a lot of meat to them.
Yeah, this one is 60. When I bought it, it was always 40 pages. And Joyce was like, when the advertising, we have to maintain a certain percentage to keep our mailing costs low. And when Joyce would get to 40%, she wouldn't take any more advertising. And I was like, you're the only game out there. These shops need you. These designers need you. So I try to keep it flexible. I still have to keep my percentage, but I'll add more pages of editorial if our advertising is up.
Nice. And there is one of the A&G still does their magazine, right? Is that kind of the only other thing around?
Yeah, EGA has their Guild magazine. A&G has theirs. I like to think of both of them as more of newsletter format than magazine format. It's more on what the guilds are up to, what each chapter is doing, some of their educational programs and things like that.
Right. That makes sense. And so how many people are on staff with you? Do you have a staff?
Yes, I do. And I have 2 full-times, 1 and 2 part-times, and then myself.
Okay. And then a lot of freelancers, correct?
Right. We use a lot of freelancers for the proofing, for writing. I hire writers, and then designers. We don't ask for anything for free. We can trade advertising, or we can pay a flat fee for a contribution of a design or something. We try to make it a win-win situation.
Right. Well, we have our mutual friend Donna, who writes for you. And I have to give you a little backstory about her. I don't know if she probably didn't tell you this, because she's way too gracious to tell you this, but I'll tell you this. So before I owned the shop, was hired to teach a class at a store that's about 3 hours from me. So I drove over there, and it was the first time I'd taught outside of my own community, where like I didn't really know the stitchers. Like most of the time when I taught around Detroit, I kind of knew the people, right? It was the same people I taught. So I go hopping over there and introducing all myself to people, and I'm walking around the table like, oh, are you sure you're comfortable with the stitch? Is there anything I can help you with? And I got to Donna, and Donna's told me nothing about her background. I mean, and she's very quiet and very sweet, but at this point in the, class, very quiet and sticking to herself. And I said, oh, well, have you done colonial knots and French knots before? And she's like, oh yeah, I think I'm okay. And then I found out after I left the class what her background was, and writing for you and everything else. I wanted to die. I was so embarrassed. I'm like, so I did give her some good-natured ribbing and said, you really should clue the teacher in that you actually really know what you're doing, and you could be teaching the class, but she's too gracious for that. So that was
she goes for the experience, and she's great. She really is.
Well,
she's not going to pat herself on the back too much.
No, but I've really enjoyed getting to know her, and we've stayed in touch since that class. And yeah, so it was just kind of funny, because afterwards I'm like rolling my eyes at myself. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I was asking her those questions, like as if she'd like barely done anything but basket weave before. So I was trying to be a good teacher, but
yeah, She's one of my friends I talk to every single day. So
Oh, well, you are lucky to know her. I can tell you that, and I'm sure she feels likewise. So she writes for you regularly, I think, and you have other people that are in almost every episode. Uh,
and
uh,
there's some regulars that, that they like to contribute, and their designs are really good, or their stitch guides are really good. Laura's one of them, Pat Mizzou. I mean, there's a whole group of them that are, I love working with them. It's so easy.
right.
We know each other. It's so easy, but we're also always looking for new designers, new stitch guide writers, new canvases. I don't want to get in a rut where we're just doing all of one type of design.
Gotcha. Well, I always find something fabulously interesting in most every page of each magazine subscription or edition, excuse me. And so that we should talk about how people can subscribe the easiest way and the multiple ways that they can do that, because I'm sure there's a few.
Well, the easiest way is probably our website, which is www.needlepointnow.com. We're set up there. Right now, we're having a 50% sale on back issues. So it's a good time. I mean, we're selling them from to the reader, what we usually sell the current issue to you. But we try to whittle down our stock so they can order those online. We've also got some of our issues that we sold out of. We've been digitizing them. So if there was one that you didn't get and you can't find a copy of it, it's just not available, we do have some digital issues.
That's great.
You can also call us. We have a full-time person to sit there and take your calls, and he'll chat with you. His name is Bill, and our office number is 541-915-90. No, that's my cell phone. Not 541-935-0238.
That's okay. You probably don't call the office yourself that much. So
No, I don't. But
and so
so
how
yeah.
do you have some thoughts on where any new directions the magazine's heading, or
I thought I was on target to go more into an electronic age, and I just think with COVID, we just kind of got bogged down. We've dealt with staffing shortages and
yes,
some what everybody else is dealing with too. So we've kind of taken a little bit of a back seat. We're constantly trying to revamp our look a little bit, try to stay current, because we need to appeal to a younger audience.
right.
Also, we need to cover everyone. My biggest goal is to keep this form of art alive and promote the industry. And I do that by showing what our stitchers are doing and what they want, and
Well, that
that's
has
what I'm here for.
been one of the good things of 2020 is, being on the shop floor and talking to people and answering Instagram messages and whatever else I'm doing on a daily basis. There's so many young stitchers starting to stitch, and there's nothing that warms those of us that it's been important to for a long time. There's nothing that warms our hearts more than having a 20-something-year-old come in and say, I'm so sick of wasting my time on my phone. I want to learn to stitch. And, I feel like I need a big bell in the shop that like I could ring when
right. I think one way we're going to appeal to them is to try to keep it affordable.
Yes.
They really struggle with the price of canvas and the threads. So I try to put some projects in the magazine that maybe the canvas isn't so expensive, or it's on it's a charted piece and it only calls for a few threads. So it's kind of like, the jumping off drug. Here, have a little taste and see if you like it.
Right.
And we have to keep doing that.
Yeah. We've, in my store anyways, I've really ramped up on some self-finishing type things too, because that's sometimes the big eye-opening surprise for a newer stitcher. And whenever we have a new stitcher come into the shop, I kind of have them face the music with me and say, well,
Yeah.
if you have this finished, the finishing fairies are not inexpensive. So
No.
Yeah.
It's about a third of the cost of finishing. I always say, it's the canvas is a third, the threads are a third, and the finishing is a third.
yes, for sure.
So
And for when you get to the point in life that you do have more disposable income, I also regularly say to people, you can look at it as like it's $500, let's say, or how much does that cost you per hour of entertainment? Like it's way cheaper than golf. It's way cheaper than owning a boat, like all these other things that might be in families' lives. So
yeah, I did an article on that one time, and I actually researched the cost of a round of golf, some woodworking tools, because a woman had written me a letter saying that her husband was giving her a hard time about the cost of the supplies. And I was like, well,
yeah,
here's the skinny on that. How many hours of entertainment do you get for $100 project? That's about what a round of golf is. And he gets what, 3 hours, and you're getting,
for sure.
50.
Well, and I don't want to make light of this because I do actually mean this seriously. For many people, like this is keeping them literally their mental, yeah, it's keeping them sane. And I've had many stitchers tell me I would for sure be spending a lot of money on therapy if I didn't have my needlepoint. And
Right.
I think some people say it jokingly, but I know that many people have said that to me very seriously. And I understand it. It's a
Yeah.
huge stress reliever, as you mentioned earlier. So
Yeah, it is. I mean, for everyone, me, especially me.
right.
So,
No, I'm there with you. And I know, as I said earlier, if I don't carve out that time, I need to carve out a little time for exercise and a little time for needlepoint, and I'm in a good place. And if I, give up on one of those two things, it's usually not pretty.
yeah, I'm the same way. I actually exercise with Donna several times a week.
Oh, so you walk together because you're each on a
Well,
different coast practically?
yeah, she's in Connecticut and I'm in Oregon, but we have Peloton bikes, and we get on our Pelotons
Fun.
and do video chat and sit there and sweat and talk to each other. So it's a
I
lot of
love it.
fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
And do you two only know each other from needlepoint?
Yeah, Vicky D'Angelo is over at Needle Nook of La Jolla, introduced us to each other many years ago, and we just hit it off. Donna's come on our tours, Vicky's come on our tours, but it's just been a really good experience. I needed somebody that was interested in stitching some Judaic designs, because we have a large readership that are Jewish, and I'm not Jewish, and I needed somebody that they understood it. And Vicki said, here, I'm going to introduce you to Donna. And it's just been a really good friendship since.
Donna, who knows how to do a French knot.
And a colonial knot.
She's going to laugh when she hears all the love she's getting on this podcast.
I know, I keep looking over at my messenger because it's like she's going to be texting me any second now.
She's going to be feeling us talking about her.
Yeah.
Well, and as a reminder for those who are watching this, Donna does write for the magazine. So it's Donna Laganga. Am I saying her last name right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Every now and then I'm like, I'm afraid I'm going to screw up saying someone's name. Well, anything we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I think so. So what are you stitching?
What am I stitching right now? I am, for anyone who has listened to this for any period of time, I'm a big starteritis person.
Oh, me too.
I start a lot of things. As a matter of fact, you and I don't know if you remember this, you popped into, at the beginning of the shutdown, you popped into an evening class with Laura Taylor, and I was in that class.
Yes.
So I still have not finished my raccoons from that class because, of course,
they were cute.
They're really cute, and they're 13 mesh, and Laura gave me phenomenal stitches. And I'm very fortunate as a shop owner to be super busy right now, but that means that I don't have much time to stitch. So
yeah,
it will happen though. You got to make hay while the sun shines, and I'm trying to keep everybody else happy, and being at work certainly keeps me busy, and I'll get my turn, and hopefully over the holidays are falling, the Christmas holiday this year is falling such that we'll be closed for 4 days over Christmas because of just we always close on the 24th and the 26th. So I'm like 4 whole days. So obviously some of it will be spent doing regular Christmas things, but I plan on doing a lot of stitching then. So.
Yeah, take a little time for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So trying to think what else we want to talk about. I know for sure that I want your trips with the bus tour have been on my bucket list. So that's going to happen sometime. I don't know when, but I have a good friend who lives in Chicago, and she used to live in Grosse Pointe, the community that I live in just outside of Detroit. And she moved about 10 years ago now. Has it been that long? I think it's been on that long. And I can tell you that we would not have stayed as close as we have were it not for Needlepoint. Like Needlepoint's been our glue for sure. So that's something that I can see my friend Terry and I doing for sure. So
I think my best, most loyal friends are needlepointers.
Isn't that funny? Well, and I've gotten to be such good friends with Megan, my pointing it out teammate. And we've never once lived in the same state together. And I talk to her almost every day. And it's all just because we commiserated with this shutdown really together. I mean, we were friends before that, but
it must have scared you terribly.
The first day I came in and was by myself, and she and I both bought our shops 3 years ago. And I came in and I looked around the store and I was like, what am I going to do? Like I was convinced that I was going to be out of business soon. Like I was like, how is this going to happen? And I spent the whole first day cleaning out our boxes, like doing something that was like the most ridiculous use of time. But I needed something that like I could do that I could see that I'd done something. So like I broke down all these boxes and cleaned up our shipping room and like I said, ridiculous things. And the next day, Megan said, we have to get online. We've got to get online and get used to being in front of a camera. And that's what's going to save us. So, and now, I mean, we're, as I said, both very, very fortunate to be super busy with everyone home stitching, and Needlepoint's getting so much love. And I would guess your subscriptions are going up because people are learning that they've got to teach themselves now. You know, it's been a hard thing. We used to have 8 classes eight classes a week here.
Wow.
So it's really hard when people can't learn in person. So
even the shop sale part of our business has gone up quite a bit. You know, I worried that, people couldn't get to their shops. They were going to stop buying the magazine at their shops and start buying it direct, which is great. We don't mind that, but I was like, God, the shops, I'm going to lose that whole segment. But they've increased their packets. They're selling them.
That's great.
But the first day that they locked us down, I had an employee that could not get out the door fast enough. And he was the person that does our database and answers the phones and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? So I was doing his job and my husband stepped in, and because he couldn't go to his office, so he would come to mine. And so he started answering phones and stuff to help me out. And eventually when the employee didn't come back, we couldn't do it anymore. We just had to replace him, and we found somebody that's really good. But I was scared silly when it first all broke.
I know. And we're fortunate that we are no longer scared. We're just busy trying to keep up. So that's all good stuff.
That's right. That's right.
Good. Well, I can't thank you enough for spending time with me. And I know this episode will drop only 9 days before Christmas. So it will be fun to see us all later on. And I appreciate you. And if for those people that have just joined us for the first time, please hit subscribe on the YouTube page because that helps other stitchers find us. And lots of good stuff in the backstories. So join us and check them all out. Well, thank you again. And I will wish you a happy holiday season.
Thank you. And the same to you and your family.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.